Hello everybody. We are going to talk about a very important aspect of the overall ISO certification project, the final certification audit. It is said that all is well if it ends well. So as a person in charge for ISO implementation and certification in your company, what you need to do to achieve a perfect finish? I know it takes a lot of hard work, follow-ups and regular interaction with everybody in your organization to achieve a good implementation level. After having spent so much of time and resources and efforts, you are always worried. You might have butterflies in your stomach when you hear the date confirmation from the certification body that your certification audit is scheduled on this date. You start worrying what might happen if it does not go as per my expectation. We might not get recommendation, or there are some major observations. Obviously, you need to do your homework. You need to put your system in place. A full functional management system has to be in place with proper implementation and records. But even after having done, there are so many examples wherein company faced problems in the final certification audit. So from our global experience of working with more than 4,000 organizations in more than 50 countries, we thought it makes sense and a perfect sense for us to share our knowledge and our expertise with all the process in charges for ISO certification in the respective companies. Being in charge for ISO implementation, you all will be knowing PDCA approach, plan, do, check and act. Now same approach we suggest our clients to use for your certification audit preparations. Let's start with plan. In the plan phase for ISO certification audit preparation, you need to communicate the details about certification audit with everybody. The dates, timings, tentative schedule, name of the auditor or auditors, and in case you have some experience of dealing with that auditor in the earlier audits or through some of the person in the company who knows about the auditor through the previous assignment, share that with everybody. Knowledge is a skill. Second, in the plan phase, you call for a joint meeting of all the ISO process managers, process owners, departmental representatives, departmental heads. Joint meeting. What do? You discuss about the readiness and overall preparedness or overall implementation level with each of the departmental heads. Review the complete documentation. Make sure nothing has been left out. In case during the meeting you find that there are some areas that need certain attention, address it, tackle it on war footing. Do not leave anything with something in mind that, oh, this is not a very important issue, it's not a major process, we'll tackle it after the audit gets completed. Or never try to fool an auditor. Auditors are smart people. They have seen the companies, they have seen both the side of the coin. They know how to interpret when an auditee says in a particular fashion. So never keep this intention in your mind that we'll hide this from the auditor, or will not show this to the auditor, or will not take auditor to that area, or any other excuse like this. You will always be caught and you will have problems. Always be fair and free to the auditor. Share the truth. It is always appreciated. Believe me, if you try this, you will get lot of good benefit. Auditors do appreciate when you put things in front of them in black and white. Another important thing before you actually go for the audit in the plan phase is review your internal audit findings. All the findings you identified in your internal audit, you need to make sure they are closed. Another thing is you need to confirm the audit arrangements and timings and date with the certification body and if possible with the auditor himself or herself. You need to plan for proper arrangements in terms of transportation, logistics, travel and accommodation for the auditor if required. Auditor loves to be taken care of and you will benefit. Second step, do. The most important part in this phase for a successful audit conclusion is speak less, hear more. There are a lot of auditees, the ISO managers or departmental representatives whom we have seen that during audit they keep on talking and talking and talking. What happens? You give an unintentional clue to the auditor of something, I don't know. So always restrict yourself to the question what auditor has asked you. Be precise, be to the point, answer to your best knowledge and ability and move on. Now when you start an audit, it's a good practice that at the opening meeting, before auditor takes over, introduce auditor to your team, and after the opening meeting, take the auditor for a quick round of your facility or premises or factory. Try to make the auditor understand about your operations activities and the macro level project implementation about ISO standard that you are getting audited for. Share that with the auditor. It is also a good practice to show the auditor a brief presentation about your company. Take 10-15 minutes of auditor's time, ask for his permission and make a formal presentation. That will create a good first impression about your company, your processes, your methodology in mind of the auditor. And believe me, the first impression is very important. If something goes wrong in your initial few hours or half an hour of the audit, you are gone. So make sure that first of the impressions that you pass on to the auditor is always best. Even there are some companies, say there are 10 departments in the company and couple of departments you know as an ISO manager are not very strong. So it makes sense, logical sense to keep them in the last part of the audit phase. The strongest department you can suggest auditor to start the audit with, and auditors will agree lot of time until and unless they find something fishy into it. You request them, they should accept it. Now another important part that we suggest all of you to do is follow input of the auditor. Please remember, on the day of audit and otherwise, you should respect what auditor says. Kindly ask your people not to argue with auditors or do not get into a kind of debate with the auditor. If auditor says something which you feel is not appropriate or wrong or improper for your company's operations or keeping the context of your operations into mind, express your views very politely. But without arguing. That leads you nowhere. Give a lot of importance to the viewpoint of the auditor, because auditors love that. Auditor would expect that you try to understand the point of view auditor is trying to make and try to get if you can implement it. After the audit is over, In case the auditor has some observations, try to understand from the auditor what actually led to that kind of situation, and if something can be done so that you can close the findings, or you can prove or provide any further evidence to the auditor. And finally, you should thank the auditor for his time, efforts and resource that he has been putting for the audit. So that was do phase. The check part, PDC, check. After the audit is over, on the basis of the informal audit findings that you gather from your colleagues and from the final audit report you get from the certification body or from the auditor, you review the audit findings, any major, minor or observations that you get to know, discuss with the core team, identify how you should be planning the closure of the observations and start working on it. The finally, act part. Carry out root cause analysis, take proper corrective action, fill in the non-conformity report or improvement initiative report, send it back to the auditor or the certification body. Another important part is communicate your corrective actions in time so that the report processing and issues of certification can be done properly and speedily by the certification body. Now after having done all this, your file would be processed by the certification body and you ultimately get a certificate of compliance or certificate of registration from the respective certification body. Now your job is not ending. It doesn't end there. In fact, it increases. Why? Because you need to prove the continual improvement in your management system. You need to show continual improvement in various processes. Even your responsibilities grows, doubles. Because when you get an ISO certificate, people will have more expectation from a company. All the stakeholders, and you need to fulfill. If you fail, there's a big chance of company getting into a lot of damage control mode if required after the audit or after there is a big customer complaint. So make sure that you continually keep on improving your process and you reach to a level where you can always say to the world that because of ISO management system, we could implement a robust operating instructions and operating mechanism in the company that has helped us to reach to a newer level of management effectiveness. If you need any assistance for your ISO certification or ISO implementation, we welcome you. You can visit our website or contact us through our email ID or our phone numbers. We as the largest ISO certification consulting company in the world, we can help you with our expertise and professional services so that you can plan, implement and maintain your ISO system in the most effective manner. Thank you very much.